In November 2018, I got my 8A status. The tough thing now for me, I think, is being able to sustain the work that you have.
Let me ask a different question. Tell me one thing that was hard when you first started that's still hard today.
That is a very good question because 2017 and for the most part 2018 were lean years.
Okay.
I won't deceive anyone about that. In November 2018, I got my 8A status, and I approached a number of contract officers that I knew and stakeholders that I knew, and all the work we had at that point was as a subcontractor.
Okay.
And they saw an 8A potential sole source or 8A competitive work as a risk. They said, well, Lynwood, we like you, we know you, but you don't have any prime work. And we look at US spending.gov, and you're a $1 million company. You don't have a lot of capital, and you don't have a lot of fast forms to show that. So that was very difficult. So my first win in March of 19 as a prime came as a product award.
Okay.
It was a company that I knew the contract officer at HHS, and a company that they wanted, she knew that they wanted satellite equipment to support their efforts.
Right.
And they were told to find an 8A. And she reached out to me and said, hey, look, company X, the Corps wants their equipment, but they need to find an 8A to do a sole source to. At that time, the sole source value was $4 million. So she connected me with me, and then we made a very quick award.
Right.
And that gave me my first prime contract. And then from then on, it really started it, because then I got prime contract. $4 million. Nice. I got $1 million coming in annually. I could go to my bank and get a line of credit.
Right.
I could do a lot of those things that it takes when you're a startup. You don't have past performance or anything.
Right.
So in terms of now, the tough thing now for me, I think, is being able to sustain the work that you have.
Okay.
Because that work, the period of performance on some of the contracts are, a year, 3 years, 4 years.
Right.
So as a small business, you want to retain that work. You want to keep that customer. So it's tough because you've got to look at the cycle of the contract and say, okay, well, this contract's going to end in December. Well, I need to do the best we can to find out about the recompete and who are competitors, how do we align ourselves to keep this work. So that's a pretty significant, time, particularly if you don't have a project manager over there. If you have a project manager, you can sort of delegate to them, look, this thing's a year out. We need to start looking at the recompete. So that's hard because, you as a business owner are looking at the big picture, what you're going after, what's in my pipeline, what we're pursuing. You're looking at GWAC contract vehicles like Polaris and Stars 3 and Oasis and all these other vehicles. So you're looking big picture of what we want to do, but then same token, those are IDIQs. So there's no money there until you win task orders. Right. So you're thinking about all these GWAC vehicles and all these other pursuits, but you don't want to lose your mindset on what you currently have.
Right.
Because if you devote all your resources to that, then you'll lose the work you have. And it's funny, my mentor had that happen to them. I mean, they lost a $45 million contract where they were the incumbent, and they won it through Stars 2. And lesson learned, big lesson for me. So they engaged them, they marketed to them, but then a new contracting officer came in. And they were about 90 days away from the RFP coming out. And what they did was they focused not on the new contracting officer, they focused on the response. Well, last time they wanted 15 key personnel. So we got the key personnel, we got them locked down, we got letters of commitment, we got the incumbent staff locked down, we're doing this. We're getting the proposal processes in place, all things responding to the proposal.
Right.
But in the meantime, an Alaska Native company went in there, pitched themselves, and said, "Hey, look, we understand this contract is coming up for recompete. Are you prepared to recompete it?" And the answer was no. The answer was, we need to find a stopgap. We need to find somewhere to put this work until we have time to put the fundamentals in place to recompete it. So unbeknownst to the prime, my mentor, this Alaska Native company came in, and then the government decided to do a 1-year sole source to them. And that was 70% of their revenue. That's going to go away at the end of next month, because they lost their sight on the work they currently have. They were so enamored with the recompete, and we got to put these things in place, prepare your proposal people, all this stuff for the response. And then what they also should have been doing was grooming that contracting officer,
Right.
that new contract officer, make sure they're happy. I mean, I told them, you should have been giving that person coffee every day.
Right.
Here's who I am, what's going on, how's it progressing? Because it was they could have used a contract vehicle that this company had to do a 1-year bridge or do a 1-year extension. And unfortunately, because they took their eye off the ball of the contract officer, then now they're no longer the incumbent. So now they got to look next year at trying to win back the work that they had. I mean, that's going to be tough, because now you made this ANC company the incumbent.